Hey, everybody. Welcome to Game Breaking News with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from GiantBomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about two new massive RPGs and Switch 2 pre-orders starting up tonight. It's going to be a good one because we have Jake Randall on the episode. Jake, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing excellent. Yeah, kind of stayed up late to catch the new episodes of Andor, and they were very good, so I was very happy with that.
Probably going to be staying up late again tonight?
I'm going to be staying up late again tonight. Yes, we're going to be trying to get those pre-orders for the Switch 2, and I'm going to be relying on you. We'll definitely talk about that here in a second, but I know you've been doing a lot of prep on that. I guess, how are you feeling about this lead up to us here in this country finally getting the chance to pre-order a Switch 2?
Well, we were just talking about this on the pre-show a little bit, but we're getting a lot of mixed messages because there's certain parts of the world where it seems like the stock has been great. Pre-orders aren't too challenging, definitely not PS5 level. And then there's news, like what came out today about how much demand there is for the signups in Japan and Nintendo. It's pretty bizarre for Nintendo to actually make a statement saying they can't meet the demand.
Yes.
So it goes both ways, but to be honest, I think this is definitely going to be easier than the PS5 Series X launch.
Seems that way.
Because it's Nintendo and it's a new product, it is probably going to sell out here. But I think if you're on top of it, I think if you get on pre-orders right away, you should be okay. And I do think there'll be multiple pre-orders before launch date. So if you don't necessarily get it tonight, don't freak out. This is, the big hype. Everyone's going to be going for it. Just don't freak out. It'll be okay. Everyone, if you pre-order it now or pre-order it in a few weeks, we'll all get it the same day.
And for those that don't know, that this is Jake's speciality. Like, this is where you butter your bread, right? Where you help people figure this stuff out. Show people the notes. You were showing me a little bit ago. He's got pages of notes about understanding the best way to get these pre-orders done.
I was just making a pre-order guide video on YouTube to answer everyone's questions. So I wrote down every question I've gotten in my YouTube comments and on Twitter. I put them all in there, and I put a little guide for each retailer too. But I take it really seriously because as soon as I accept, okay, I'm going to help people try to pre-order this thing, then all of a sudden I have a responsibility. I don't feel responsible to do it, just every time. But as soon as I say, yes, I'll help you, I feel pressure to give people accurate information and to help as much as I can.
Well, you know what? Let's get into it. So let's explain what we do here most weekdays. I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Breaking News or find the RSS feed on GiantBomb.com. You can also catch the show later on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the show with those Switch 2 pre-orders begin tonight. So if you're Eastern time, it's midnight. If you're on the West Coast, it will actually be 9 p.m. It's all going to line up that way. I can't help you right now with Minecraft, kid. I'll help you in a little bit, okay? And then so with the pre-orders tonight, it is going to be all major retailers, but not like the Nintendo store, right? That's going to be later. So do you have like a preference, Jake, for where people should try to focus their energy, or is it kind of like a shotgun approach? Just kind of go.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest questions I had. So the only exception is GameStop is not going live at midnight. Their online orders will be tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. 8 a.m. Pacific. And then when their stores open, which is typically noon, whenever your local store opens, they have a separate allotment to pre-order in person in the store. But yeah, they're the only one that their online pre-orders are not going live at midnight. So it's kind of nice because GameStop is automatically your backup plan, right? If you don't get one at Target, Best Buy, or Walmart, who are the three that'll go at midnight, then at least you have one other to try in addition to possibly the My Nintendo store. But Amazon's not doing them. And
they broke up again. Yeah.
What's that?
Nintendo and Amazon broke up again. They're on again, off again all the time.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So Amazon's doing it in the rest of the world, just not the United States.
Right.
So between Target, Walmart, and Best Buy, they all have pros and cons. Best Buy and Walmart use a queue system, which helps against the bots. Target does not, so they might go faster. But between Walmart and Best Buy, I would go with Walmart because they're, obviously the size of Walmart as a company is much bigger than Best Buy, and their servers and their website handles these kind of things a lot better. And most people are going to probably go for Best Buy because they're doing that midnight launch.
Right.
So if you go for Best Buy, I would go for one of their bundles. The more expensive the bundle, the easier it will be to get because scalpers only want the Mario Kart bundle and the base console.
If the bundle would eat into their profit margins of them trying to scalp it. Okay, yeah.
Exactly. So they have some crazy bundles. Some of them are up to $700. I don't think you need to go that crazy, but those ones will last the longest. And then, but I would go with Walmart because they guarantee delivery by 9 a.m. on launch day. And they used to be pretty bad, but so they have a bad reputation, which is also why people might not choose them first.
Right.
But for them, definitely try for all three. But I would keep in mind that Walmart's probably going to be people's best chance. The Best Buy app is terrible. So if you're going for all three and you're also trying to do it on your phone, don't go for Best Buy on your phone, I would say.
Okay.
Go for either Target or Walmart. But that's kind of where I'd rank them.
Okay. So as people are making these decisions, is there like a best practices for like splitting up like multiple devices? Should they have like the Target app and like all their stuff preloaded on their phone? Like, is that just the basics at this point? Make sure you have your account on Walmart and Target and Best Buy and all the payment info already in there ready to go. Should people be doing that right now?
Yeah, obviously you want to do your prep work. You want to make sure you have accounts for all these places ready to go. You want to make sure you have your shipping info and your payment info. And a tip that works really well is during like restocks or pre-orders. Obviously, these retailers, their servers are getting throttled. So
Right.
if you use PayPal or Apple Pay or Red Card or Google Pay instead of a credit or debit card, it increases your chances exponentially because it processes your payment on those companies' servers instead of the retailer's servers.
Oh, interesting.
So I would do that. And also, I would recommend if you can only go for one on your phone of the three, I would recommend Walmart because if you have Walmart up on your computer and also on your phone, in their queue system, it'll give you a separate place in line on each of them.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like getting two chances. And then while you're waiting in the queue on Walmart and Best Buy on your computer, and also waiting in the queue on Walmart, then you can focus on the Target website in terms of refreshing, since that's the only one of these that doesn't have a queue system.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. So, if you were trying to get a Switch 2 tonight, you had just enough money to get one. Like, what is your go-to? Like, what is the one thing that you recommend everybody do, and like the best path forward? What would you say to that person in that situation?
So honestly, shameless self-plug here, but I think it is really helpful, not just because of me, but I will be live streaming the pre-orders. And the actual benefit to the live stream is it will let us adjust on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
So if certain websites aren't working, on your end, if you're not on the stream, you just have no idea what's going on. You don't know, you don't realize, oh, the servers are just down, so I shouldn't be focusing on this right now. But in the live stream, I can tell you that. And I have a lot of experts that are smarter than me in a lot of ways in my chat that can also tell us that. So as a community, it's not really even my thing. It's the community working together. And in the past, we've gotten employees to give us backdoor links and stuff like that in the chat. So it can at least, instead of you panicking, it can at least paint you a picture of, okay, is everyone having this problem? Have the website sold out? Should I give up yet? So if you can only do it from one place, I would be prepared for all three. Obviously, wherever you get in your order is good, but using the live stream can really help to figure out what you should be focusing on in the moment.
Yep. Okay. Very good. I'm going to be watching tonight for sure. I'll be hanging out in chat, looking for all the tips we can get. And I think the thing that you opened with the don't panic, don't if you don't get it right away. Just there's going to be other opportunities even before this thing comes out. Right. There's going to be another probably like drop from retailers. Like so, people shouldn't have that immediate feeling of FOMO, like maybe they might have felt with the PS5, which was a really extreme situation, right?
Yeah, there's going to be canceled orders, orders that get declined because of payment methods, and the retailers wait till a significant amount of those to pile up, and then they will also get allocated more stock that they're not counting for, and then they'll drop them all together in random segments. And so when those drops happen, they're potentially easier because there's not this 1 week buildup of everyone knowing that they're going to happen. And the other thing is, at the end of the day, Mario Kart is going to be a launch title, but even if you don't get it at launch, the next big game doesn't come out till July, like Donkey Kong. So it's not like you're missing out on too much. At the end of the day, if you don't get it right at launch day, you're just going to have more stuff to play when you do get it, which will be probably an even better experience.
Yep. And then as far as getting these Switch 2s into the country, there is beginning talks of the country backing off on some of the tariffs, even on China. So, this initial batch that they rushed into the country, maybe after this stuff settles down a little bit, which who knows if they actually will. Trump's gone back on his word a number of times now. But if he does, then they might rush another batch into the country like immediately because they want to. They won't necessarily believe it'll last either. So I think there's some maybe good news on the horizon here for these consumer electronics products. All right, Jake, excellent. That's very helpful. Any other things that you want to mention before we move on from this? Like anything else that's like rattling around in your head? You're like, oh man, I wish more people knew about this.
Honestly, not off the top, but after the podcast, you have plenty of time. I would, in the description of my live stream and also just on my channel, the most recent video is that guide that will cover everything we kind of just talked about, plus a lot more too. So I would just recommend just going over that, put it on in the background. It's like 20 minutes. You saw my notes. It was very hard to condense, but that's my last thing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. What was the, where should people find the YouTube channel? Should they just go Google Jake Randall on YouTube?
Yep. Jake Randall on YouTube or Twitter X. It'll all come right up.
Well, speaking on this topic, Nintendo is already apologizing for not having enough Switch 2s. This comes from Ethan Gotch at Kotaku. Switch 2 pre-orders don't begin in the United States until late tonight, around midnight, but they've already been underway in other parts of the world, and even Nintendo has been shocked by the level of demand so far. The company said that with over 2.2 million fans seeking to pre-order a Switch 2 directly from My Nintendo in Japan alone, the demand already far exceeds its ability to fulfill shipments to that country at launch. We received an extremely large number of applications, approximately 2.2 million people in Japan alone, Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa posted directly on Twitter today. However, this number far exceeds our expectations and far exceeds the number of Switch 2 consoles that can be delivered from the My Nintendo store on June 5th. Therefore, unfortunately, we expect that a significant number of customers will not be selected when the winners are announced tomorrow, April 24th. So they're doing a lottery in Japan. They don't do that in a lot of territories. I think I think they think a lot of other territories don't like the idea of a lottery, and maybe they're right about that. Japan is more accustomed to that sort of thing. 2.2 million trying to get in there. Obviously, a lot of that, Jake, is going to be like if you're going to be spreading out your chances. A lot of people are going to try to go to the retailers. They're going to try to go to online stores, and then if this is an opportunity, they're going to go do that as well. But 2.2 million right there at launch for the My Nintendo option. That is a pretty big demand for launch. Like if they sold 2.2 million Switch 2s just in Japan in the first month, that would be really, really good. So it does sound like you're right where we talked about earlier. The mixed messaging on the availability of this thing is kind of a little confusing. But I think, the bottom line, right, is this thing is going to sell out at some point here pretty quickly after it goes up for sale, right?
Yeah. The other thing that's a little tricky here is, well, it's been fairly easy in parts of the world to pre-order. Once this comes out, once the games start coming out, you can actually expect it to get harder to get the longer it's out.
Yeah.
Because even the Switch 1 has historically sold out every holiday season. There's been other factors into that. There's been chip shortages and things like that. But even like 5-6 years into its life cycle, the Switch 1 sells out before the holidays. So factor in like the demand for this, the fact that the 150 million Switch 1 user base doesn't have it yet, and a lot of those players will be wanting one. And I expect it to be probably hard for pre-orders, then possibly like a little after launch, a couple months into it, to get a little easier. But then like come September and October, it might be harder than pre-order time. And the other thing is they have the most amount of stock during pre-orders. They've been building up stock for months and months. Now it's going to come down to how many they can produce each month. So they'll never be able to stockpile units again. So that's going to make it harder to get as well. So your best chance is probably like the pre-order phase, then maybe a couple months in, but then it's going to get really hard to get. And then first quarter next year, it might start to get easier again.
Right. The slack might come back. Like they won't begin stockpiling again, but the demand will sort of calm down a little bit. So, okay. Yeah. And I think Nintendo recognizes that to a certain extent, which is why they're out there kind of explaining this. But yeah, we will have to kind of see. But I'm imagining it's going to go a lot like what you said, where it's people who really want one right now, if they kind of put their head down, they'll have a good chance of snatching one. And then if you do wait, that period closer to the holiday is going to be more difficult. All right. Let's get on to some of the other news. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a Game of the Year contender I wrote down here just based on its early reviews. And it's not like this is a handful of reviews. There were more than 80 on OpenCritic, where it has a 92. Ed Nightingale at Eurogamer gave it 4 stars, said that the French take on a JRPG has outstanding artwork and glorious combat that bring Clair Obscur Expedition 33's bold, painterly world to life. Richard Wakeling at GameSpot gave it a 9 out of 10, said Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a phenomenal RPG, or RPW, as we call it around here, telling a heartbreaking tale while incorporating thrilling action into its tactical turn-based combat. Dom Pepiot at VG247 gave it 5 stars and said, they say art is all about eliciting an emotional reaction. If you could do that, all the effort expended in creating it was worth it. I think Clair Obscur does that with aplomb. If you have ever loved role-playing games, you owe it to yourself to play this. It has the capacity to touch you on your heart, all that good stuff. Lexi in chats gave it a 98 out of 100. Everyone I've been talking to, Jake, who's been playing this, has really been liking it. I haven't had much time to play it myself, but I will be. I played it in there was an early preview phase where I played quite a bit of it. And I just think it's got the juice. It has got the stuff that people come to these games for. And then it doesn't try to do too much outside of that. And I think that's pretty wise. It focuses on delivering like a really well done acting and storytelling, and then a really good combat system. So I think this one's really going to catch on with a lot of people. Is this one that's been on your radar, Jake?
It hasn't, just because my backlog's been a little crazy,
Sure.
But I'm a huge RPG guy, and I'm actually really interested because I'm addicted to turn-based combat, tactical RPGs, SRPGs. But one thing that, when there's so many things to play and these games take a lot of time, one thing that kind of steers me away is if the story isn't compelling, if that part doesn't pull me in, it makes it really hard for me to put all my time into that. But this game sounds like it has that.
It definitely does.
After hearing that, now it's kind of jumping up on my list.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that this is that's not always something that captures me, but in this case, what I have played of it and have seen of it, it did. Like the story was something that won me over, and it's like, well, I don't necessarily need that personally, but so when it does, it's always like this nice bonus. And then when that happens, I can usually tell it's like if it's getting me in that way, the people that like you that do come to these games for that kind of strong, compelling storytelling are really going to have something to fall in love with here. So that's kind of been what everyone's saying. And then on top of that really, I just find it a super engaging combat system where all the characters have a little bit something different going on, and they all have their own sort of gameplay loop of how one action that you do feeds into the next action, and then that feeds into the next action that's even bigger and more impressive, and then it sort of flips over and starts all over again, and you just feel like you're always working towards something. It really understands the genre, it really understands its own mechanics in a way that I have found very impressive. So yeah,
sold.
Yes, I think this game's going to pop off for everybody.
I'm currently playing Astrobot.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough. Hey, that's a good game too. Hey, finish Astrobot,
awesome.
please.
I'm definitely going to platinum it. I'm like halfway through, but yeah. Now I've got another one.
Yep. Hey, add it to the list for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
I do think this game is going to find a massive audience. It's going to be a lot of people's new main thing that they're going to be thinking about for the rest of the year. And it is one of the reasons why I am like, people keep pointing out, hey, Oblivion launched this week. And obviously there are a lot of people who play all kinds of games, including both an Oblivion and an RPG like this. But I think this one's going to find its own audience, very separate from that noise.
This is going to be a stacked year.
Yes, it already is kind of like there's been a lot of good games.
Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong, Pokemon Legends, this game, GTA 6, Ghosts of Yotei. It's crazy.
Yeah. Hey, and speaking of Ghosts of Yotei, Ghosts of Yotei release date set for October 2nd. I think it's Yotei, but I can't remember for sure. From Darren Bonthus at GameSpot, Ghosts of Yotei has an official release date locked in as the upcoming open world samurai game will be released for PlayStation 5 on October 2nd. Developed by Sucker Punch Productions, the game is a sequel to the critically acclaimed Ghost of Tsushima. This got announced in a blog post. Sucker Punch revealed more about Ghost of Yotei's plot, which revolves around the protagonist Atsu hunting down the Yotei Six, a gang of outlaws who murdered her family. It's just like they're completely just ripping off that Assassin's Creed Shadows game. Yeah, this is a little bit surprising, Jake, because what we've been hearing is people are not going with the release dates. They're not nailing these things down because Grand Theft Auto 6 is still hanging on the horizon. But they're going with early October, which to me says they know Grand Theft Auto 6 isn't coming out before then, right? Is that what it says to you?
Yeah, I mean that's what people are saying. That's what going around, and yeah, it kind of definitely makes you feel that way. And for a game the size and the scope of GTA 6, it often happens that whenever they announce a year and not the date, it comes out at the very end.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that the earliest that Grand Theft Auto 6 could come out this year is late October. I think that is probably
it's possible it gets delayed into 2026.
Oh, for sure. In fact, we have our fantasy critic league, and I think Mike picked Grand Theft Auto 6, and then I counterpicked it just on the hope that it does get delayed, and that, the hope, but really, I hope it comes out this year because I want to play it. That was, I'm like, there's a good chance that thing does get delayed, and
that's a good bet.
Yeah. But at the very least, it's not early October. It would be late October, and then through the rest of the year if it comes out this year, which there's still a really strong chance it does. But we're getting close to that time. We're going to be planning for Summer Game Fest kind of nonstop for the next month. Like people need to know their dates, and if your game is Grand Theft Auto 6 and it really is coming out this year, you probably do have to start being like, no, we do have a real date for that now that we are going to stick to, and tell our partners and like people like PlayStation so they know what's going on, they can feel better. At the end of the day, the game being done will dictate all of that, and they'll have to do that first. But if the game is getting to a point where it's ready, now is about the time where I would expect them to have a pretty good idea when that thing is actually coming out. So do you think we hear about that here in the next couple of weeks, next month? Do you think they hold off until the last minute to tell us the actual release date? Because once they announce it, everyone's going to know, because it's going to be everywhere. It'll be impossible to ignore. So they kind of have the leeway of announcing it whenever they want, right?
I think similarly to companies not wanting to reveal games or release games around GTA 6 because it'll kind of take over all the attention and they'll lose, whatever they're doing in the chaos. I think Rockstar probably wants to wait till after like Switch 2 stuff. Wait till after some of these other games have come out. I think they would also like to kind of have center stage to have that big release date. And obviously, the big thing that's been a problem with them is they don't want to get leaked. They want to have control of when that gets announced. So they might even just not be picking a date internally yet because of that. It's such a big deal.
Yeah, I think that you're right that it's like that they are going to take all of the leeway that they're possibly given. If you are a big game and your game sort of sells itself, you do have that slack. So you might as well use it because it's honestly, it saves you money. It saves you money on marketing, saves you money from having to like try to crunch people to get something done in a way that isn't that it actually isn't ready for. And so it's like, okay, let's just kind of go with the flow here, see how things are going. We all know when we want this thing to come out, but let's not say anything publicly because we don't have to like correct the record, which also does just cost money in terms of marketing. So yeah, I think this is just a lot of it's just driven by simple business decisions at this point. And I think at the same time, they are probably out there having conversations with partners like Sony, being like, yeah, no, don't worry. It won't be out before the middle of October. So if you wanted to release Ghost of Yotei on October 2nd of this year, go for it. You're going to be just fine. You'll have a couple of weeks to yourself. And I think that's probably right.
Well, I have a question for you, just your opinion. Please. When it comes to, do you think that Rockstar is watching how people are reacting to the price of Mario Kart? And do you think they know what they want to charge for it yet? Or do you think they're kind of taking advantage of being able to see how people are reacting to this and kind of, they might have something they're looking at, but they're open to, they don't have a set price yet, is what I mean.
No, I think that's right. Is, you know, it doesn't always work this way with software. But if people like look back to when we were wondering, hey, what is the price of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X going to be? And everyone's like, well, they know, they're just not telling us. It's like, no, they don't know. They have a range. They're waiting for the other person to make a move, so they're like, so they don't look out of step. And then they both played chicken, and then they kind of both like at the last minute decided on 500 because they're like, oh, the other one's not going to go to 600. If the other one went to 600, maybe we go to 600. So they decide the price. That's the last thing that they decide on for hardware. In software, you kind of are a little bit more pinned down because people have an expectation of what things should cost. Now, we've seen...
Normally, it's pretty set.
Right, but things have become a little bit unchained from that. The anchor of the price has been lifted a little bit. And I do think that now Mario Kart frees them up to be like have a little bit more flexibility. But also the reaction does make it so it's like, well, you got to keep in mind, people will be angry, but they have a chance now to see how Mario Kart 8 actually performs. Like, people are saying one thing, what do they actually do when the rubber meets the road and they actually have to decide if that game is worth $80? And it's Grand Theft Auto 6, so it will have even more demand actually than a Mario Kart. So I think they're going to decide at the last minute. I don't think there's any way the game is under $80 at this point.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say, this kind of gives them the green light to at least go 80. But if they are then the next ones to raise over the 80 price point, they could see some of this backlash. So this might cap them at 80, and then a lot of DLC and, online microtransactions and stuff. They probably want to have that route. So I think people that are saying 100, I think just because of what that price point would mean, and just the look of it would just be so shocking. I don't think it'll be 100, but I think at least 80. I agree with you, and it possibly a little more, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's they are. I'm sure they are worried a little bit about a backlash, but the backlash, I think they would view it as, well, that's temporary, and people will get used to whatever price we set. And in 5 years, do we want to look back and be like, I'm glad we didn't have a backlash for 3 months? Or am I glad that we got an extra $10 to $20 for every copy we sold for the last 5 years? I know which way that they...
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. You're right.
I know which way that they really feel about that. And but the reality is they do have to take price pressure into consideration, because every dollar you increase it does mean fewer people will buy it, But do you think your thing has so much demand that won't matter? I think they probably feel that way about Grand Theft Auto 6. The reality here is they almost certainly just get creative with the pricing, right?
Yeah.
$80 for a base version, $100 for something that has all the stuff that you really want if you're going to play GTA Online 2 or whatever that looks like, something we still have no idea how they're going to present that. Early access.
Then we're going to have the PS6 version. Then we're going to have the PS6 Pro version.
Of course, yes. And then play it a week early for $120, that sort of thing. They'll sell a lot of copies of that. That'll be the bulk of their sales, honestly, in the first year. If they could. So I don't think that they will avoid that either. So they'll find a lot of ways to get that average price up well above 80, but the minimum is going to be 80. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Matt Piscatella dropping the latest Circana report for U.S. game sales and a lot more right after this. All right, back into it on Game Breaking News. Jeff Grubb here. That's Jake Randall. We're going to talk about March 2025 Circana report. Here it is from Matt Piscatella. March 2025 projected U.S. consumer spending on video game hardware, content, and accessories declined 6% when compared to last year, and that's to $4.7 billion total. Assassin's Creed Shadows debuted as the best-selling game of March, ranking second year-to-date so far. U.S. video game market March spending trend. This is them kind of just tracking how things have gone. March 2025 content spending fell 4% versus a year ago to $4.2 billion. The only growth segments were non-mobile subscription, which was up 11%, and console digital premium downloads, which were up 12%. Mobile content finished 6% behind March 2024, so even mobile spending was down. They do have a chart where it shows like how marches have gone for like the last, let's say, like 6 years, 7 years. And overall, it's very flat. Like it's just not growing. There was a spike in March of 2021, big surprise. And then since then, it's back in line with March 2020, and it's basically been the same ever since. So there's like 4 straight years of not a lot of growth in the U.S. total video game spending market. That includes mobile. So I think a lot of times, Jake, we talk about this and it's like, well, the console space is pretty even, but on the mobile side, things are growing. So they're like, for people that make games, they're looking over there. And it's like, well, even when you count that in there, the overall spending on video games is pretty flat for 4 years in a row. As mentioned, Assassin's Creed Shadows was the best-selling game of the month. It's the second best-selling game of the year so far. MLB The Show, the new version, was number 2. WWE 2K25 joined the chart at number 4, and number 5 was Split Fiction. Pretty good showing for that game. Let's see here. Rest of the chart. Yeah, okay. Some notes from Matt about some of these games. Assassin's Creed Shadows was the best-selling title in March, instantly becoming the number 2 best-selling game of 2025 year-to-date. Assassin's Creed Shadows finished the month ranked first in full game dollar sales on Xbox platforms and second on both PlayStation and Steam. MLB The Show 25 ranked as the second best-selling game of March and led all titles in full game dollar sales on PlayStation platforms. Tracked launch month dollar sales of MLB The Show 25 were 23% higher than those of MLB The Show 24 during its March 2024 debut period. I think that game is no longer on Game Pass, and that might be what happened there. Okay. Jake, basically, it's like some new games came out. They performed pretty well. It's still the sales for software down year over year, regardless of that. Do you think that we are in a place where Switch 2 comes out and kind of cures a lot of what ails the gaming industry right now, or is there more to it than that?
I think it's kind of a little more complicated than that.
Yeah.
I think that the backlash with the prices doesn't really help. So in a way, the Switch 2 is kind of hurting it as much as it's helping it. Nintendo always produces quality software. Their games are very polished, very fun. But I think there's a lot going on right now. When those numbers kind of peaked, it was around COVID. And there was also new consoles coming out. So that was part of it. So that's why the Switch 2 could definitely renew some interest. But we can't really recreate that situation. You know what I mean?
No.
So it was never going to always be like that. but the world's population's always getting up. That's why there's always records being broken for most selling games. I'm sure Mario Kart World will break records, especially being available in a bundle with the console. But it's so easy. There's so many like handhelds like the Steam Deck and things like that where it's so easy to emulate past libraries, and it's just becoming more and more accessible for the average consumer to easily do that. And there's so many games out there that you could be a hardcore gamer and play video games every day and never really have to spend any money, or at least be able to wait for heavily discounted sales, especially when it's going to come from companies like Ubisoft.
Yeah, it's I think like all of those factors are so huge of the reasons that like console gaming specifically isn't growing. Like those barriers of the price were always an issue, and the industry seems to have no real interest in solving it. The solutions they did come up with, cloud gaming, is just not something that has clicked for a lot of people. We talked about a story on Monday's show, Jake, about the renting PS5s being very popular in Japan.
I
Like
saw
something
that.
and it's like, okay, yes. So clearly there is a demand there of people who want to play these consoles, do not want to spend $500 or more on them to make that possible. So they're looking for an alternative method, but the cloud option is not something that they're really considering. They'll just instead rent a console. It's okay. So there's still this gap that needs to be bridged. And in the meantime, prices keep going up. And so the traditional method of, hey, buy a console, buy some games, it's not more appealing. It's less appealing and feels like, well, if I'm someone who was looking over there in that direction and I'm already playing something free on my phone, I'm just going to keep playing the free thing on my phone. So it's definitely the industry kind of putting itself in this position in a lot of ways. But also the stuff does get more expensive and they have reasons that they need to grow. And so them trying to get more money from the same people, I understand that, but boy, I don't think this is a long-term sustainable strategy, but that's not the way these companies think. So I think Switch 2 will come along and will answer a lot of this, because obviously the Switch was a big part of buoying the entire, at least video game sales in the United States and around the world, and it's at the end of its life. So a lot of the declines we see year over year are attributable to that. So the Switch 2 coming back on the rise will be fantastic, but in the meantime, PS5 and Xbox Series X are both like experiencing major declines of their own. In fact, we have a note here from Matt. March video game hardware spending fell 25% when compared to a year ago to $286 million. This is the lowest March hardware spending total since 2019. PlayStation 5 hardware dollar sales fell 26% in March versus a year ago. However, this platform once again led the market in both dollars and unit sales. So it's down massive double-digit percentages and still is outselling
Xbox and Switch.
Was probably
a similar decline in like PS4 sales right before the PS5 came out too.
There was.
When there's a new console, people are going to be saving for that. So that's probably a minor factor at least.
Yes, so well, we had Matt on the show a couple months ago now at this point, and he mentioned, he's like, yes, this is the time where these consoles do see a natural decline. The bell curve of sales, we're over the hump there. But he did note that these declines, like 26%, is much greater than what he was expecting. He thought it would be a more gradual decline, and this seems to be pretty precipitous. So I think there's just, again, multiple factors there of the system is expensive, and in a lot of ways, in a lot of places, has gotten more expensive, like the PS5. And the people who are sitting out were sitting out specifically to save money. And we know that they had some discounts on PS5 a couple of holidays in a row, where it was like, actually, you can get this for like $350, and even that was too much for quite a few people. Their PS5 sold really well.
I feel like the entertainment industry as a whole, like even movies and shows, I feel like everything's kind of just people, like, they're not going to see movies in the theater. I feel like everything's on the decline right now.
Everyone just is saving a little bit extra money, and the expensive costs of everything, I think, is a huge factor there. So Switch 2 will only solve so much of that, right? Because it itself is very expensive. All right. let's see anything else from this. He also notes that people are buying a lot of accessories though. So although year to date spending is down 16%. Actually, and it was down 11% in March. But if you're selling accessory, make it black apparently, because black accessories were the top selling across all categories there. So there you go. All right. Persona 4 remake speculation picks up as website gets updated again. This is from Mike Straw at Insider Gaming. Talk surrounding a potential reveal of a Persona 4 remake is continuing to pick up steam online. Late last month, Keen-eyed fans discovered that a website with the domain p4re.jp had been registered. It was quickly pointed out that just 3 months before it was revealed, a domain for the domain of p3re.jp was also registered for Persona 3 Remake that launched in February 2024. So people are drawing a direct correlation here, Jake, of this happened before, so maybe we'll get this game very soon. And at the very least, people are also noting that this website is getting updated frequently. It was just updated a couple days ago, apparently. So it does feel like we are going to find out about this pretty soon. Of course, this is no guarantee of that. The website could be just a placeholder. This is no guarantee. But Persona 4 Remake has been rumored and speculated on. Seems pretty likely. Do you think this is something we hear about pretty soon?
Oh, for sure. I mean, as soon as they did Persona 3 Remake, it's like, okay, Persona 4 Remake's going to come at some point. It's an even more popular game, whether you like 3 or 4 better. The Persona series ever since 3, like 3, 4, 5, has just exploded. And yes. as soon as they remade 3, you knew 4 was going to come. And I think with this website coming out, it absolutely points to they're going to share it soon, or at least it's probably ready to be shared, and they're trying to pick the exact perfect time. Maybe we'll see it at Summer Games Fest. That would make sense. But honestly, I'm more interested when we're going to get Final Fantasy 9 and Persona 6.
Yeah, Persona 6 is probably something that they are going to say for quite a bit longer. Whenever I talk to my friends who are huge Persona fans, like, yeah, no, it's happening, but I'm not expecting to hear about it anytime soon. Final Fantasy 9, though, that's one they keep like teasing in every way except for just saying that they're doing it. So
I know
what is going on there. Maybe that's another one that could be at Summer Game Fest. Although I think I've said that about every like major show for months now. Yeah, that is one of the last few games that was in that NVIDIA leak that has not come out. So I continue to believe
it's so funny because that was one of the most hyped games from that leak. And it's almost like we're getting teased every time another game comes out, and that one isn't announced yet.
Yeah, and Square Enix now has started up a Final Fantasy 9 like anniversary thing. It's 25th, 30th anniversary, something like that. 25th anniversary, and they keep talking about, hey, there will be other projects as well. So here's a bunch of merch you can buy. And I said, well, what are the projects? Can you just tell us what's going on there? And they keep just not saying it.
It's not to diminish from Persona 4, because I'm extremely excited for that. That's an amazing game. And I also Atlas has just been killing it the last few years. Metaphor ReFantazio is basically Persona. It's like a Persona game in a different setting.
Right.
Everything about it feels Persona, but it's really refreshing. So that's a fantastic game too. So I really can't complain.
Yeah. And as people are pointing out in chat, if you are desperate for a Persona, Expedition 33 is very much inspired by Persona games. So there you go. Get in on that action.
All right. Now I'm even more sold.
Yep. Yeah. Persona with adults is what they're saying in chat. All right. Oblivion Shadow dropped yesterday. And who could have predicted that was going to happen? It peaked at 182,000 concurrent players on Steam, though, which, concurrent players for a single player game. I get it. I always just use it as an indicator of how a game is performing in terms of sales. That is a massive number. And it says a lot of people are playing this game and buying this game. And that's just on Steam, where, the game is also available on Game Pass on PC and Xbox. So the thing must be doing very well. I am very excited about this game still. I'm going to be checking it out. I was going to play some yesterday, ran out of time, and I couldn't. But it seems like they've done a good job. And it's one of these games that like came out of nowhere. And I'm like, I wonder what the controversy is going to be Jake, where I'm like, oh, I'm sure there's going to be something wrong with it. And people are going to they're going to hate it, something about it, and that'll become the entire conversation. That does not seem to be happening. So I think people are pretty happy with this.
Yeah, I think people are
seeing?
just it's a pretty drama-free release so far.
Yeah.
Which is great to see. It's funny because the original Oblivion was one of the first things to have a lot of drama about the price of having to pay to get the horse armor DLC.
Horse armor DLC.
That was like mind blowing. Now it's commonplace.
Yep.
And I think there's like a version you can get that comes with that, which is funny.
Yeah, the deluxe edition, it's $60. Yep. There's a $50 version and a $60 version that comes with the horse armor. So still doing it to this day.
Okay. Yeah, but no one cares at this point because it's like.
Well, we're so used to it. Yeah,
that's awesome. I noticed that there's no announcements for it coming to Switch 2 yet, but I think it would be really cool. I don't know if they would do this, but they did it with Skyrim, where they put the Master Sword and Link's shield in the game. And I think that would be pretty cool if they did that for the Switch 2 version.
Yep. And as Snack Dad points out, the one thing of drama that is happening around it is there is the Microsoft boycott by BDS, and that does seem to be hitting the game a little bit. But that BDS boycott is still like picking up steam. I think, and a lot of people are trying to figure out where they fall on it. All right. Excuse me. Let's see here. Instead of shutting down mod remaking Oblivion in Skyrim, the mods remaking Oblivion in Skyrim, Bethesda gave the team Oblivion remastered keys. So essentially, there's the Sky Oblivion mod that a bunch of creators are working on to remake Oblivion in Skyrim. They've been working on it for years, and they now, Bethesda has their own version of that idea. They're not remaking it in Skyrim, but they remade the visuals in Unreal Engine 5. And you could imagine like a company like Nintendo being like, shut that down. We don't want competition from the community. Well, that's not what Bethesda is doing. They gave keys for their version of Oblivion remastered to that entire team. And the Sky Oblivion team was just like, thank you. We think that this game coming out is actually going to help us as well. So everyone's kind of getting along over there. And I got to say, I appreciate this aspect of things. You don't have to squash every sort of fan show of devotion when it just because it takes the form of a video game. Like people want to make their fan art and they want to make their fan games. Let them do it. And it really is not going to hurt anything in the end. It clearly has not hurt Oblivion, right?
Yeah, I think that's so cool. I mean, the people that are making these mods are the biggest fans of your games. So I think it's amazing to do that for them and show that appreciation. Probably made their year, It's frustrating the way Nintendo goes about it. They're kind of like how Disney is with their intellectual properties.
Yes.
I get it. It makes sense from a business perspective, but it doesn't always make sense. Yep. You know what I mean? Like it's sometimes when you see all the love, it's good. And Nintendo has, especially like the Pokemon company, it's been speculated that they've used fan created Pokemon to inspire their designs. It's hard to say because most Pokemon are based on real animals, but there are some very compelling cases where you can look at some fan made Pokemon versus what Nintendo did. And there's so many similarities that kind of make sense. And I don't know, imagine if Nintendo opened up a contest, to create your own Pokemon and it will be added to the game. That would be so much publicity right there. Like the next game, whatever performance issues it have, that would totally kind of take over, what people are talking about. I wish Nintendo would do stuff like this more. So shout out to them for doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely. I always point out it's like the difference between Lucasfilm for a long time and CBS Paramount with Star Trek, where Lucasfilm was actually pretty litigious and stopping people from making a lot of Star Wars fan films, and Star Trek was just like, go to town, do whatever you want, make all this stuff, make your own entire fan shows and stream them online, and we love to see this stuff. And it's like clearly one of those is better than the other, and helps grow and fosters a community of creative people who want to be a part. And like eventually, a lot of those people are going to end up making the real ones because they will have built up so much talent and skills, and they'll go work in those fields professionally, and then maybe one day actually make a real Star Wars for you. So, yeah, if I'm one of these game companies, I am definitely finding every way I can to support the mod creators. Now, Oblivion Remastered doesn't support mods out of the gate. I think they're mostly just saying don't install the mods that already exist for Oblivion into this game because it'll probably break it. Is how I read that. I bet the community will figure. I bet the community will figure that out really soon. And at that point, I think Bethesda will just stand back and be like, "All right, go to town. We're not going to get in your way." All right, last thing here. Activision confirms Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 will have a career mode, but fans are still confused. This is from Joshua Robertson at The Gamer, and I, too, am still confused about this.
So Tony, am I. I'm curious to hear this.
Yeah, let's see if we can figure this one out. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4's reveal earlier this year was a big surprise to many, and there was a lot of excitement over potentially revisiting some of the classic Tony Hawk games we all grew up with. Unfortunately, a lot of the excitement was then ruined by the reveal that the games wouldn't include Pro Skater 4's free roam career mode. Instead, the game will have a new streamlined career mode in which players have 2 minutes to complete challenges. It was a major blow to many fans, though Activision seems to now be doing the best to make sure the entire situation is as confusing as possible, as it appears to have rubbished its own comments and confirmed career mode after all. So there is a tweet that they posted where they said, "Who said there's no career mode?" And then they show small snippets of gameplay of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 missions, and it looks like it's suggesting that the original career mode is in there as people want it to be, although they didn't just come out there and explicitly state that. And the one thing that is making people think or giving people hope is there is like a 2-second segment of this video that has a timer counting up. And so that seems to suggest, like, okay, for the mission that you're doing for this Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 objective, you're going to get a timer counting up because there's no 2-minute timer counting you down. It's just tracking how long it takes you to do that. So you can
What time is that counter out? Because could it be counting up to 2 minutes?
Yeah, so it's at 42 seconds. Yeah, and Jan's getting it here for everybody on the video version. There's some Tony Hawk's Pro Skater content creators who are like looking very closely at this. And, I think I might have one from someone here. Okay, no, I didn't bring that up. But essentially what he said was, I can't tell from looking at this. He's like, it's either this is like a version of a speedrun mode where people can like take those missions and go do a speedrun version of it. Or this is the full career mode, and there was, for some reason, they just confused the messaging out of the gate, or they've made some changes and they've restored that. And it's like, I think he was saying he leaned towards this being a speedrun mode, and that's kind of where I'm at as well. I don't want to get my hopes up and get other people's hopes up.
If they just completely reinstated the career mode and they went out of their way to, make a statement about it, that they would be clear about that.
Yes, exactly. That's the best way to put it, Jake, I think, is like if they were doing it, they would say that they're doing exactly that without any sort of confusion around the matter. This feels like trying to muddy the messaging and be like, no, there's a career mode and you're going to be fine with whatever we put in here. Come on, relax. And well,
I tend to agree. It seems like it's one of those situations where we got to wait for it to come out to confirm.
Exactly. And
you think they're going to not do review copies like early?
No, because I think that they are of the opinion, and I'm of this opinion, Jake, that once people get their hands on the concerns people have about this not being the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 that they want, will mostly go away. Because it's like, once you're playing it, I bet it's going to be like, all right, it is different, but I see what they mean by streamlined and how this is actually still a very fun game and probably going to be better in a lot of ways. I think it's going to be an improvement in a lot of ways, even if it's not exactly what people are saying they want. Now, once they get their hands on it, I think a lot of people will change their minds.
I hope so. I hope that's the case.
Yeah, that's definitely me hoping in that as well. But I do think that's probably how this will go down. So
that does kind of make sense. If they're confident in the product and they think it is actually more fun this way, but people just can't experience that yet, you do have to have it come out. So hope that's the case for sure.
Yep, we'll see. It's the game's out July 11th, so not that far away at all. We got Donkey Kong Bonanza, and then that a couple days later. All right, that does it for the headlines. We have poll questions we need to get to. Let me go ahead and bring it up here. This one is from Monday. Let me scroll down here. All right, have you ever rented a console? Yes or no? I actually did rent a PlayStation 1 once forever ago, 30 years ago. Jesus. 34% of people said that they have actually rented a console before. 66% said no. These days, or at least for like the last 10, 15 years, it's like, where would you even go to do that? Maybe like a rent-a-center, and they're going to charge you.
Consoles?
I don't think GameFly ever did consoles. I don't know. So it's like, yeah, like we went to
Rent-a-center, I guess.
Yeah, Rent-A-Center, and they'll charge you like so much that it's clear that it's known to it's a bad deal. So yeah, but maybe some people are talking about that when they're saying yes. I don't know. I think this is something that might come back a little bit, but it's not going to be a major part of the industry, at least not in the United States. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't really see it working in our market.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that does it for that poll question. We have a new poll question we'll get to here in a second. Before we do that, though, Jake Randall, one more time, tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, what you want them to watch, all that good stuff.
You can find me if you just search Jake Randall on YouTube or Jake Randall Switch 2. You can do it on YouTube, on Twitter X, and if you're trying to pre-order the Switch 2, or maybe you're going to wait a little bit, either way, to be fully prepared for how the retailers work, I have guides on my channel. The most recent video on my channel is a master guide it took me a really long time. We showed the notes at the beginning of the stream. For that, I'm gonna throw those out after. But
frame them.
I'm gonna be live streaming tonight as well, so all of that stuff is on my channel. So the best part about the live stream isn't even me; it's the fact that we have thousands of people there that collectively can let us know what websites are working, what websites aren't, to keep you in the loop, so you're not just kind of guessing on your own, right, and kind of panicking. So hopefully this is a smooth process, but I do expect, even if the stock is sufficient, the websites are going to probably crash and servers are going to go down right at midnight. So just hang in there. And like I said, if you're panicking, come to the live stream, and I can assure you and keep you in the loop of what's going on.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely be watching. We'll be streaming as well, but I'm going to have you on. I might just be pointing everybody in your direction if they're really having a hard time keeping everybody apprised of what's going on.
The more
looking forward to it,
better.
Actually. Yes. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it actually, because it's like, man, been wanting to be able to pre-order this, and having that delay happen was a real tough thing. So want to get my hands on this system, ready for all of this tonight.
I really took the wind out of my sails as well, but it's back.
Yes, we're back. Exactly. We're back, everybody. All right. New poll question right here. Are you going to play Oblivion, Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33, or both? Your options are Oblivion, Expedition 33, both, or neither. That poll question is up on youtube.com/@GiantBomb under the community tab right now. So you can vote on that. We'll get the results. We'll talk about it on GameBreaking News tomorrow here on the Power Block with Giant Bomb and GameSpot. In the meantime, though, on the website and on the Power Block, in a little bit, I think we're going to be playing some Marathon. Then after that, there is, I think, a Clair Obscur Expedition 33 stream. So new games are happening for the rest of the day today. And then we'll be back tomorrow with that Game-Breaking News episode, voicemail dump truck, a bunch of other fun stuff. In the meantime, Jake Randall, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talk about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure, Jeff.
Yep, anytime. And thank you all for watching. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Welcome to the GameSpot Show. On today's episode, we talk about the long-rumored Oblivion remaster and Bloober Team's next game, Chronos.
Hey there, sir. $1. Thank you very much.